Welcome to Transformation Heroes by Feedia, a series dedicated to CX professionals. Hello and welcome to another episode of Transformation Heroes. I'm your host Carlos, joined by François. Hello, François.
Hello, Carlos. Happy New Year. Good to be back.
Happy New Year to you too. Today we want to cover the top trends that customer experience may face in 2025. So we have 4 trends to cover. I'm going to list them here. Trend number 1, AI and personalization. Trend number 2, increase of competition with new global rules. Trend number 3, the customer feedback loop and the evolution with AI agents. And trend number 4, sustainability in customer experience.
Very broad topics. Sounds like a 5-hour discussion. We'll try to make it shorter.
Right. So going on to our first trend, AI and personalization. Obviously brands are trying their best to create their customer profiles. And traditionally this was looking at creating a persona. So trying to identify a group of individuals and be like, okay, we need to try and sell to them because they are giving us the highest level of revenue. Now we are shifting into a more personalized experience for the customer. And it'd be interesting if you could maybe share some examples of how brands are using AI to become more personal.
Yeah, I'll give 2, Carlos, which are very basic ones, but they've been doing it for a long time and they've been doing it with AI. And I think the big difference is that what these guys have been doing will be available to pretty much all companies thanks to the democratization of AI. I think it was kind of like you needed to have like billions of dollars to be able to make AI personalization at scale. So being able to segment and to personalize the customer experience for any given customer at any given time. And now like pretty much everyone can do it if you have the right software. So the first one will be social networks. Like it's a very good example of like the content that you see on your newsfeed is always AI driven. So it's not just LLMs. LLMs help in terms of the content that's being generated, the moderation and so on, but it's still like your newsfeed is your newsfeed. It's not someone else's newsfeed, and it's not only based on some group specification, right? It's really yours. And then the second one, which I think they've been doing that for a long time, even before the social networks, is our retailers. Like I think retailers are excellent in terms of based on your patterns. So of course we have Amazon it's not really a retailer by definition, but still in terms of like selling you the right product at the right time, like there are a lot of them which are very advanced. So for example, for pregnancy, like detecting when a woman is pregnant and making sure she receives the right stuff for a baby at the beginning, at the right ads and the right promotions and discounts. Like I think these are examples which have been there for a very long time, I think, and just got better and better with AI.
Yeah, I've noticed that personally. My partner is a little bit more, I would say, liberal when it comes to browsing. So, she'll be on Facebook, then she might go on a retail website using the same browser. All of that information is nicely cached in the background. And during her pregnancy and after the ads, she wasn't necessarily looking for these things, and yet it was following her everywhere, and it was really impressive to see.
It's interesting because it's a mix of data science, because you can do that without the AI, but there's still a machine learning with some models that are not like LLMs by default, but they're still like AI, and I think that's interesting because you will see more of that, and I think there are some big dangers. More with like what Facebook just announced, what Meta just announced, like they were removing fact checking. That's a So I mean, you can have like a lot of AI generated content now. So there is like big risk. But I think if we zoom out from the customer experience standpoint, like it just means you have to be very good at making sure that everyone that arrives at your door, like you are able to provide a very personalized experience that is the right experience for that person in that emotions state, in that based on his experience, based on his history, based on what he's looking. Like that's what he's looking for. That's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, talking about emotions there, that was something that was used a lot in the past, trying to break down, understand what customer emotions are based on certain products, certain experiences. Do you have anything maybe to talk in that domain when it comes to AI tools? Do you see the relevance in emotions still be taking up the space that it took up traditionally? Or do you think we're moving away from that emotion-driven perspective?
No, we're definitely going more into the emotion-driven. And again, like the one use case that is with customer experience, very broad field. Inside customer experience, you have what we guys do at Feedia, which is basically more on the analysis and providing like intelligence in terms of identifying what's working, what's not working. But there's another field which is customer support. Like you talk to an agent, and like a customer support agent. And this is the one that has been like completely transformed last year, and that's going to keep evolving in the next couple of months. And that's where the emotions is very important, because if you have someone that has been talking to 20 customers that are going to churn every day, yeah, of course, you can expect him to be very good at understanding the pain point, asking questions, be very patient, which you could with an AI. So we're not there yet, I think, from a technological standpoint. Like there's some, like again, there are excellent progress in that field, but in 2025, we'll very likely get there. And the main difference between like, why would I talk to an AI customer support versus a human customer support is, I think, the emotion that is going to be mirroring the state of mind I'm in at a given moment. And you'll still need to get someone at the end, probably. But yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah, to kind of conclude the point of AI and its role in personalization, how do you believe larger organizations can effectively deliver personalized customer experience? Just because, doing something like that at scale can be resource.
Yeah, well, it's very expensive, right? Like, so one of the key challenges is the price tag. So you need to measure the ROI from day one. So you need to be able to know how much does it cost for human agent to take a call, how much does it cost to acquire new customers, and then based on these like key metrics, which are based on events in your customer journey, then you can take it to the next level and be like, okay, well, if I do 90% of that flow with AI, do I save money? Do I save a lot of money? Or absolutely not? It's just more expensive to do it this way. And I think one of the key challenges is going to be measuring the ROI from day one, not having a gadget AI, so something that looks good on paper, but that is absolutely useless, which we kind of used to have with the chatbots, where everyone has his own chatbots, like on your website. But if you compare it to what we have today with, like with the LLM that we use on a daily basis, all of us, there is a big gap. There is a huge gap. And then there is another point on making sure there is always a human in the loop, and making sure that you have the very best of your customer support agents, which are there to take over whenever the personalized AI is reaching its limit. Like, you need to have someone that is here to take the lead. And you want these customer support agents to be the real ones to be the one that are going to bring the most value, the best ones, and you want to make sure that stay, because you will always need them.
Absolutely. And you want to protect them, as you say, and make them feel like they're very much valued, because they are, as you mentioned. Without them, you're relying on an AI and hoping for the best, fingers crossed. And
and I don't think that's going to work this way. But so if we sum up, like, that's a big, like, that's something that's going to happen no matter what, because there are like so many companies going after this market, like AI startup companies, and again, like, the technology is ready for it. That you're going to have more personalization in terms of customer support, but you're also going to have more personalization in terms of what you buy, the experience that you have on your site, and yes, it's going to be AI driven, like 100%.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to trend number 2, the increase of competition with new global rules. So what I mean by that is, we are in a very connected world. We're constantly being more and more connected with other individuals across the world. The world is feeling smaller and smaller day by day. And with that, obviously, we are more susceptible to price fluctuations. So things can go up and down very, very rapidly. And we are also seeing things like tariffs being imposed from one country to another, as countries look to secure their resources or their labor market from external factors. So with that in mind, with potentially new tariffs along the horizon from large global superpowers, what sort of ways can...
Without naming anyone.
Yeah, kind of. The US, Europe, EU. To name a few, I think those are the 3 main kind of global players. Obviously, we have the BRICS the BRICS countries as well. Yeah, it'd be really interesting to get your perspective when it comes to how businesses can remain competitive while having to navigate things like price fluctuations and sudden...
So at the end of the day, whether you are a big business, a small business, a mid-sized business, it doesn't matter. Like, you have a margin to protect, and that margin is going to be more and more challenged in the future. There's a lot of technological change with new players, whatever your industry is. More than ever, you have instability in terms of geopolitical standpoint in the world. That's a fact, and that's going to increase. And then you have like a lot of external challenges, such as global warming and so on. And so basically, every company's margin is going to be challenged in the future. And that's where, if we now link it to customer experience, like, customer experience has very good days ahead of it, simply because it is a competitive advantage to have the best customer experience, right? And if you're someone in a company that is able to identify very precisely where are the opportunities in the customer journeys create opportunities as well. So if you're able to identify these opportunities before your competitors do, well, then you are able to sustain to keep your margins and to be as competitive as possible in a world that is going to be more and more competitive in the future. So CX as itself is becoming more and more as an asset, and the ability to listen not only to your customers, but also to the market as a whole, and not do it on a yearly basis with some bunch of consultants to be like, hey, we need to know what the market wants. No, the world's going to change a lot faster than this. Yep. So you want to be able to have a system in place that can help you identify what's going on and how you can adapt fast and how you can prioritize.
Yeah. I wonder if you could maybe expand on the use of AI in this kind of domain. So, whether that be predictive analysis, whether that be measuring your price points and how that changes over time, how can that kind of work in real time? Do you have maybe an example of how?
Yeah. So making sense of a lot of textual data, like it's a very good example. On our field, we have a lot of customer feedback. It can be like tickets, reviews, survey data, Google reviews, Trustpilot, and so on. Like if you were to find insights in this massive amount of data, like let's say you have like 10,000 per month of individual pieces of feedback, like to identify the outliers, to identify where are the opportunities and to quantify that, that's taking a lot of time, and that's very expensive. So you want to like AI is a very good example of, it's very good at processing that information, giving you key points and identifying key opportunities for you, and then you can you can use this.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, moving on to trend number 3. So this is all about the customer feedback loop, the evolution that comes from that with the use of AI agents. So we talked about support agents being obviously a very crucial part of the customer experience, especially when it comes to customer support as a department. How do you envision the use of AI agents transforming the way we collect and act on customer feedback in 2025?
Yeah, so a lot of the process, again, zooming out, the process to understand your customers, turn that into something that's going to improve your business and repeat that process with the whole feedback loop. Like there are 5 parts which are pretty straightforward and easy to identify. You need to be able to listen, to be able to make data connection. You need to identify what's broken and where the opportunities are. You need to build action plans, and you need to report. And then you loop that all the time. And a lot of it can be accelerated, improved with the use of not one agent, but multiple agents. You could see that as having a group of like consultants working with you or for you, but 24/7, and that are able to very clearly identify for a specific source, let's say for your Google reviews, hey, we have identified this opportunity on this product, which has been mentioned by like 25 customers. These customers we've linked to the CRM data, and it represents like 500K of potential revenue. Like doing all of these connections is a very good example where I think agents are going to be massive game changer, because these actions are done manually right now. And I think the users which are basically, you could work in the marketing team, in the product team, in the CX team, like you will be the one at the end of the day making decision on what to focus on. But the process of, I centralize what my feedback, my customer feedback, I make the connection, I detect what's wrong, I create action plan, and I report on the action plan. Like I think all of it is going to be AI driven, and then you will be at the end selecting what to focus on, and that's going to be a massive gain of competitiveness, but also ability to transform and make the business better overall.
Yeah. You mentioned multiple AI agents. What's the argument of just having one agent that processes your feedback data? What's the kind of need?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Like you have a lot of technological companies are doing it in a very different ways in 2025, in January 25. Let's see in 1 year who the winners are. But you have a standpoint that is to say, like, I want to have, hey, I'm working in CX, I'm going to have a copilot with me, some kind of assistant that I can use. And when I want to create a report, I will tell him, hey, I want a report based on the detractors from last month on that product, and it's going to do it for you. And it's a very, I would say, like you have this idea of workload, you have this idea of natural language processing, so understanding what you're saying as a CX, like what's your goal. You have a business goal, and so you have an agent, but it's one that's working for you. And then there's another standpoint, which is the one we're taking at Figure, which is to say, you could have one, but you could have N. Like you could have like 100 agents, and you don't want to be like, hey, I want a report. Like you could have the reports be built for you automatically on a regular basis. So you not have like one agent, but you have a fleet of agents working for you on very specific, I would say, like data that are important for you, or like opportunities that are important for you, because we know which KPIs you're tracking. We know what your customers are saying. We know what good looks like based on the 6 months, for example, of NPS data. So we can precisely have multiple agents that are going to try to find different ways for you to improve that customer experience, because, hey, there was a problem detected, let's say, in the retailer journey on a specific shop. Like, you can identify that, and you don't want, that's our point of view, like, you don't want to have a user to be like, hey, I know I have a problem here. Like, you want to be ahead of that. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. And now I'm going to ask a very transparent question. Are there any potential risks in over-reliance on automating to AI agents?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, there are a couple of, but that's why it has to be done by solution on the shelf, and you don't want to do it like on yourself with ChatGPT. Like,
Yeah,
you
lots,
were,
lots of companies would look to save money by having in-house solutions.
yeah, but it's interesting. Like, the one company that is ahead of all companies on that from an AI standpoint is not related to CX. It's related to lawyers. It's called RV. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
But it's basically like they've built an agent, but a very long time ago. Like, I think they've been doing it for like 2 or 3 years, and they're very like, they don't share lots, but you can still find interviews of the usage of their customers on Google, on YouTube. And so what they are doing is they're creating like an assistant, like multiple assistants basically for lawyers to identify issues in the emails, to identify, to find the right documents, and so on and so on. Because the lawyer job is you have to read a lot, right? You have to read a lot of documents, and you need to have a lot of knowledge. But if we make the parallel with CX, like as a CX person, it's very challenging. Or even like if you're working in the improving the customer experience and you're working in the quality team, like you need to understand the processes of the organization. You need to know who's doing what from an operational standpoint. You need to read a lot of customer feedback. You need to understand all the metrics, and then you need to build action plan, and then you need to build reports. Like, like it's not that straightforward. And kind of like as a lawyer, you have similar challenges. And so one of the risks, of course, to go back to your question, is security. Like, you want to make sure that you have absolute control of where is the data stored. My data, my customer's data is not used for training. It's very important. And so that security aspect, and I know where the data is hosted as well, like that security aspect is very important. And then there's a second part that is as important, is you need to have a set of policies. Like, you need to know extremely well what an agent can do and what an agent cannot do. And that's why most of the implementation of AI agents today are based on approbation, right? Like, you have that idea of like, as a human, do I approve or do I disapprove the work? And it's very important, because otherwise, like, you can end up with actions which are being taken for you that you're not aware of. And if the system is not configured the right way, well, then you end up, let's say, with an AI agent, like sending customer support everywhere, sending emails everywhere, or like booking flights, like, hey, I'm connected to the company's bank account, and I've got a customer on the chat that wants a refund. But he told me I want a refund for my pen, but he told me if I could get an airplane ticket for the Canaries, and I said yes.
Yeah, he asked really nicely. So
yeah, exactly. So that's why you need a set of rules, which are this set of rules. It needs to be very clearly defined. It needs to be transparent for the end user. And so I think there are these two parts. There is the security aspect, and there is the decision making and ownership of the decision at the end.
Yeah. So you talk about a lot of manual processes that CX professionals have to go through. There's a lot of data to look through, a lot of action plans to be made, as well as obviously learning your organization inside and out. With obviously AI agents being able to take some of that workload, are there any critical skills that CX professionals you believe should have in order to, upskill in order to stay ahead of the curve in 2025?
That's a very good question. Like, I think you have to be very good at decision making, and by definition, CX people are like, they are in the middle. They have to report and they have to deal with, like, they're not necessarily the one that are going to make the change happen. They have to be the one that are going to detect, to prioritize, and also to evaluate, and then make sure that there is a layer of intelligence throughout the organization where you know exactly, okay, the product team, like, there was an issue detected in the customer support, or the quality had an issue, and the product team needs to be aware of that, and the CEO needs to be aware. Like, that's their job. Like, they're very connected to everyone. And
Yeah.
so at the end of the day, like the skill set is going to adapt from can build beautiful reports, which is no longer going to be the most important skills, to I can make the very best decision and I can connect and I can identify issues before they or opportunities before they have a financial impact. And so I think it's going to be very exciting because it's a little bit of like a mini CEO job, right? Where you have a lot of insight and then you got to choose what you want to focus on and then make sure that you're connected with the right people and that you can align them. But I think the building the reports, reading like thousands of customer feedback, like you could still like read a couple per week, right? Because it's still good to get the what your customers are saying without any like any change. So it's as close to the truth as possible. But at some point, it's going to move on from I build one action plan for one team this week to my agents or my agents with an S. I've built 20 action plans and I've reviewed the 20. 7 of them have been dispatched to the right teams and they're making excellent progress and I can see that progress.
Yeah. I think fundamentally as well, it all links back down to project management. Like as a core skill, being able to project manage, being able to pass reports across, track what the AI is saying, talk to customer experience. That's all, to me, that's like, I don't know, lots of Gantt charts and
I agree. And I think what's interesting as well is that I very much believe that in 2025, like the CX job will also switch from I need to make sure my NPS is good to what's the revenue behind my detractors, or like what happened if I turn 20% of my detractors into promoters, like how much does that bring to the organization? And I have this product that is completely outdated. My organization need to change. How do I convince my boss, right? Or how do I convince the CEO of the company to do this? And I think at the end of the day, in a world, you need to understand the business value that's behind.
Absolutely. And it's about integrating that intelligence layer, as we've mentioned and discussed in a previous episode as well. Great. Okay. So trend number 4 is all about sustainability in customer experience. My favorite topic, because I think, especially when it comes to AI, and the leading AI leaders, as you mentioned with Meta, for example, when it comes to ethics, when it comes to sustainability, sometimes they get left beside for the objective of growth. So when it comes to something like preferences to be eco-friendly and socially responsible, we're currently seeing a little bit of a reversal in some brands. I don't know how much you've been following the recent news, but going like anti-woke. So rather than supporting eco-friendly solutions, they're going to the opposite. So it's really interesting to understand what are your kind of thoughts on industries when it comes to integrating sustainability into customer journeys?
Yeah, so it's going to be more and more important. At least I think it's quite different between the North America versus like Europe, but I think from as European, it's very it's something that is that a lot of companies are aware of. There's a lot of greenwashing for sure, but I think the big change, like the big impact for CX is it's going to be a competitive advantage to have a great CX and people. I mean, it's already, but the main difference is the ability to capture the need better, to identify. So if I am someone that is very thoughtful with my CO2 emission and I'm taking a plane ticket, like how do you make sure that I can contribute, that I can offset, like, for example, I can buy like CO2, not credits, but like, I think you get my point. Like you can
you can offset.
You can exactly, like you can offset your CO2 emissions. Like these kind of things, like that's a very good example where I think you're going to have this in terms in all businesses one way or another. But the one that are going to be the big winners out of this are the companies that can transform it into a business opportunity. And that can, because that's how it's going to drive the transformation, is that if you can make it your competitive advantage. And I have one company in France in mind, which is Aromazone, which is a French retailers, like where they make the fact that they products are very good for the environment a key competitive advantage against other cosmetic companies. And they've been able to do that because there was a need that they've been able to listen better than the others, and they've been able to turn that need into a business opportunity that has made them very successful and very resilient.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of blurred lines when it comes to effectiveness and the need for growth. So take, for example, carbon credits. A lot of companies have found a way to act like they're helping the environment at the times where they're actually giving money to areas that aren't in particular need of saving, so to speak. And so, for example, certain rainforests get millions and millions of carbon credits where they're basically an untouched rainforest and they have no threat. So it's interesting to kind of understand how companies can navigate this, ones that want to put the customer's perspective in the forefront. And we are seeing a global shift of customers wanting to be more environmentally focused, wanting to be more sustainability focused. How can companies provide transparency when it comes to building this trust within customers and enhancing their customer experience profile?
Well, I think first of all, so getting back to the very beginning of our conversation, like you have to be very good at listening, because you're like it's not a business driven change, it's not a political driven change, it's a consumer driven change. Like it's consumers that are looking for sustainability in their in the businesses they're working with, right? So it's coming from their side. So you have to be, as a customer experience leader, like you have to be excellent at listening, then understanding what's the impact, and then making sure that you provide the right options. Again, the credit offset, yeah, I completely agree with you. Like some of it is not on the right spots, but I think like, for example, I've seen some companies that are displaying like the CO2 emissions when you're buying one of their products, like that are being very transparent with this. I can give you other examples of like companies which do not send invoice by paper. It might sound like stupid, but it has an impact. Like if you're sending like millions of invoices on every mail because you're big B2C telecommunication company, like it has a big impact overall. So listening that there is a need for a change and being able to turn that need into a business outcome, I think that's going to be key. But the listening, like when it comes to sustainability, like at the end, like I think the core part is not on it's not on the metric that you're going to define. It's more like, are you able to listen carefully and to make sure that you give an option that has a business outcome, so it's not bullshit. So you're not like greenwashing people, that you're making the right choice. And the good news is that it's coming from your consumers, it's coming from your customers, which is not the case for AI agents. Like customers don't say like, hey, I want to talk to an AI. Like that change is not driven by the consumer, but for the sustainability part, it's absolutely coming from the consumer. So you just have to be excellent at listening.
Yeah. I think one thing to complement the listening case is also to be flexible. Having the ability to switch from traditional forms of media to more digital forms of media when it comes to, for example, distributing.
Yeah, and being transparent as well, right? Like with the different metrics and so on, like absolutely. The businesses that are going to be the most successful in this in the future are not the ones that are going to be like, hey, we do it this way, you have no choice, like that's our way of doing it. I think you need to have a business offer that is close to what your consumers need as much as possible, and your consumers are changing their mind.
Absolutely. And I think it also feels nice as a consumer when you mention something like the carbon footprint that a product is displaying. Like that feels automatically like this company is telling us they're not hiding this information from me, and even subconsciously that makes me feel like they're moving towards a better cause, if you'd like to say. Well, that wraps up the 4 trends. So just to recap again, we had AI and personalization. So being able to be hyper personalized to your customer and, using methods like social media in order to get that, having your price and ROI and cost of acquisition very much in the frame of mind when it comes to that level of personalization to see, is this beneficial? We have the trend number 2, which is the competition that we have with the new global perspective that's amongst us. So looking out for opportunities for your competitors, trying to save on margins by finding the insights as effectively as possible, for example, through text feedback, which is something that's still an ever-growing market. So the third trend we have is customer feedback loop evolution with AI agents. And the idea here is using AI agents and having them to be a supportive aspect of your job. So when it comes to customer experience, you're using AI agents like you might use consultants that work for you 24/7. The idea is they're there to provide insights and to support your customer experience strategies. And then we have trend number 4, which is all about sustainability in customer experience. So the biggest thing here is to listen to your customers. The grand majority of customers are pro sustainability, for example. So being as transparent as you can when it comes to those projects and having that project manager hat on at all times. I think that's going to be a core skill for 2025.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Very cool conversation.
Likewise. Thank you, François, for your time, and see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.